So what I'm going to make this video about is disassembling your Canik METE SFX, specifically the METE SFX. Now, the difference between the METE SFX and the regular SFX is pretty big. If you've got the large handle, brown grip interface, you've got the METE. I have a, who made this? It's Freedom Smith, that's right. I've got a Freedom Smith trigger in mine. It's quite good. Highly recommended. But if you want to install one of those triggers, or if you want to install the Jefe from Galloway Precision, you will need to take down a whole bunch of the gun. That is not explained in the user manual. So what I'm going to do is go through the bits that aren't covered in the user manual, and in particular one very, very frustrating part of the disassembly and mainly the reassembly. But we'll go over that when we get there. For now, I've got the trigger pack already pulled out. All you have to do is remove this pin. It slides right out. This little trigger hook will hook onto the spring. Remove that. If you've got springs, you should know what to do at this point. I've assumed you've done this. I've assumed you can get that far. Now, one thing that Canik mentioned that I want to mention as well is that they give you this tool, and they say you can take the whole gun down with this tool. And they're right. Actually, I'm going to be using this to take down basically every piece of the gun. I will try not to use any external tools. I will have to use a couple. I'll show you when we get there. First thing, you want to bend this retainer spring out of the way. Let me get you guys some light real quick. Okay, so you should be able to see what's going on now. There is a spring right here. This is just the magazine release retention spring. The thing they changed from this gun is very similar to the TP9 Elite series of pistols, in that their slide is exactly the same. If this looks familiar, this is exactly the same slide, except there's no roll pin here and there's no roll pin here, which is good for us. So that allows us to take this, and there's a little detent right in the center of this little cross. Push that, and it'll come loose. You want to fish this little hook here out through the indent. Should come right out. Now what you'll want to do at this point is rotate this up. It comes right out. And to get this one out, you have to rotate it up. There's a little groove that it locks into, and that'll come right out. That's that done. With that, you should be able to get the trigger out. However, the locking block is just in the way. You may be able to get the stock trigger out. It's plastic and may be able to fork through, but if you want to get your Freedom Smith trigger in without doing the pin removal ninja moves, you will have to remove your locking block. Here's where the pain comes in. So your pistol will have this locking tab for the slide under tension. There is a detent that is holding it in place. Back off the slide here. There is a detent holding it in place. So be careful, and as you remove and push on this tab, pull this out. Try to not cover all this. Pull this out. Make sure you're holding your thumb over that. Now, my detent is missing because you will find out it is incredibly tiny and almost impossible to see. So, these are the two things you need to keep up with when you pull that out. Let me see if I can get a decent... too much light. This spring, and this retainer, slide retainer. Make sure these do not go anywhere. There's a detent. If you have that, keep that. Mine's been gone for a long time. Don't worry about it. Now, with that other side removed, pull this up. I'll put that off to the side and set your cross pin along with it. The only thing left now is there's a couple of things. Now, down into the slide, the locking block, there is a little tab here. What you'll do is you'll take your little tool and slide it. Let me see if I can show, see if you can see this. Sorry. You'll need to get your tool in this little groove here and just push it back. Nice affirmative little click there, and you'll see there's a little another gap here, and just keep on pushing it back. And it should go all the way back. That frees up your locking block cross pin and your locking block overall. So we should be able to push this cross pin straight through, and indeed we are. And set that off to the side, and then take your tool. I like to go from the this side and then pry up. It's tight. It's not that tight. So you should be able to get most tools in there and it doesn't need much. Now, be careful. This little tab right here will disappear. So what I like to do is you can do one of two things. You can remove it and set it off to the side. Be warned, it's kind of a pain. It's kind of a pain to get back in there without some pliers. But I'm going to do that anyways, just for visualization. We'll be needing these later. Set that off to the side. And bam. And you just saw me lose my slide tension spring, or slide stop retention spring. This thing is piss weak. Hopefully there will be an aftermarket one because this is really bad. That's it. Your slide is taken down. You can do mag release stuff. I don't need to, so I'm not going to. But this is your whole trigger bar and trigger. If you want to replace it with whatever you like, this pin pushes through and you can get your trigger bar and whatever other trigger you want in here. Now, for reassembly. I've been dreading this. For reassembly, let me get some coffee first. For reassembly. Oh, where to begin? We have a couple of things we need to do. First things first, if you pull this tab out, put it back. It is what you want. There is two ends. It is asymmetrical. Let's see if I can show you. The mountains go towards the top. This goes towards the front of the gun. The long tail goes towards the front of the gun. So we'll do just that. Sink it in there. And what you'll want to do is take some pliers, or better yet, take your tool, get it in between those grooves, and push down, push forward, and then we need to push it back. There is a little circle. Let's see if I can show you that. There's a little circle right here that will be resting in front of. You'll want to push it back into that circle. You'll hear a good little click. You'll feel it set in there. And that will hold it for the most part. You can see this little groove here. That's where our locking block is going to sit. And this is going to come in and catch this locking block cross pin in this little divot. Okay? So you want to make sure that's back before you drop your locking block in. Another thing you want is your your slide catch spring. There's a little slot in the side of the gun. You want the hook. You want the whole thing facing down, but you want the hook to slide into the frame. It's kind of a pain to see. It's very small. It's a very tiny little hole. Okay, got it in there. Just hold it in there and let it set. Just rest it down there. It's going to fly out if you move the gun in any exaggerated way, so be careful. And then this is going to pinch against that and then slide in right where that groove was. Okay, it's fighting me. And this will just push right in. That's it. So this should have some tension on it. It will sit loose for reasons. Okay. Now we will finish the pinning of the, no, not this one. Pinning of the locking block So we've got our locking block cross pin. Drop that in there. It is lugged, so it can only go in one way. And you want it to make sure it sits flush. Good. Now, sits flush. So, that little mountaintop ridge thing there, we're going to need to push that into the locking block. So, we can access it from this hole here. Let me see if I can get some light down in there, because it's very helpful. There it is, back down in there. Just push it forward with your pen. I'll try and show you that as best I can, but it's very, very dark. Okay, just push it forward as much as you can. Just use the mountaintops as they come up. I can't even see. Oh, right. We're in. I didn't even realize. Okay, it doesn't take much. There's not much really holding it in there. That little tab down in there is mainly just to make sure your locking block pin doesn't go anywhere. So no big deal there. Now, there's a couple of things. I'm going to go ahead and put the trigger. Oh, fuck. Okay. Well, at this point, if you followed me along, you have made a mistake, just as I have. We need to take this locking block out, because if you remember at the beginning when I was disassembling this, I mentioned that we had to get the locking block out to get the trigger out. Well, we also can't have the locking block in the way if we want to get the trigger in. So, I just need a little bit of room. I just am going to undo this. It's not that bad. Get this pin out of the way. Pry that up. Drop your trigger in with ideally the hole that holds it in up, and just slide it right back down. No big deal. And then back. Follow steps as previous. Just slide that fella in there. Looking good. Can't see shit. Okay, looking good. That's not going anywhere. What you can do now is go ahead and I'm going to do everything other than the pain in the ass part, which is this fucker. I'm going to go ahead and put my slide catch in, pin the trigger in, because the less things rattling around when we do this, the better. You can just drop this in your trigger hook. There's a trigger hole that you'll have to line it up with. Make sure also you don't go all the way in, because you're also going to need to drop this fellow in. Up and down. And then it should all come together. Just jiggle it around until everybody goes home. Very good. Very affirmative clicks. Take a tool. Take that magazine catch spring and fold it back up and over. There's not a whole ton of tension on it, so I can do it with my finger and not really be worried. Like I said, this magazine spring, kind of piss weak. Now, if you have lost your detent, like I have, this is where the ingenuity comes in. And the reason why I'm making this video in the first place, it's because, one, I want to show you this pin, or this spring here. This spring here, this fucker, okay? There's nothing holding him back from crossing through this little hole. I know you can't see that, but there's nothing stopping it. So he can just go right up through that hole, blocking it. Now, that's a problem when you go to reinstall it in the gun, because you need to put this cross pin through this hole, and that will then hold tension on the spring. Problem is there's no way to do that without that detent, and like I said, that detent is very easy to lose because I've already lost it. And if you try and shove this pin through that hole, just plain Jane, just get it in there, you will ruin this spring, as I did. Okay? Don't do that. I'm going to show you what I do. And this is going to require some trial and error. I have a backup in case I just don't get it right and I'm frustrated and pissed off. Not this. Maybe it was that. Okay. That's okay. We'll use a fresh one. Take a Q-tip. Q-tips are great for a lot of things, and what we're about to do is one of them. Oh, here's one. Here's one I've already clipped off. What we are going to do is make a placeholder, a blank, a guide, to stay in there. I'm going to turn this light off because it's killing me now. We're going to run this through here, clip it off to where it'll just fit in, drop it in with the spring, and then have our push pin ready to push through and just push this out of the way. And that way our through pin will catch the spring and it should be fine. I'm going to walk you through what I've done in order to facilitate that. This is far and away the worst part of the gun. So everything else is great except that magazine spring, or the slide catch spring. Everything else is great. This is another not great thing. Okay, so what you want to do is just get a good amount and just clip it off. Be sure to do a safety squint or wear protective glasses because this will go flying. And I will show you that. What I like to do is just take this, put my thumb, and then take the bottom end of the clippers and just go right up to the edge, push it against my finger, squint. Okay, my eyes made it. And then we have just a little floating pin there. Now this is where it gets very, very, very difficult. We've got a little balancing act that we're going to do. I'm going to take this, I'm going to set it here so you can get a good visualization of what's going on. I'm going to take my spring. I'm going to load it into the back of this. When you go to load it, there's a few things you need to make sure. One, this surface, this little catch, is facing this direction. I'm having a hard time thinking of a way to describe it. So it looks like this. Okay. The rounded edge, it just looks like this. Okay. Now, as you can see, that just fell out. So what you need to do is you need to hold it in place. It may want to come down and miss the hole. You just want to guide it in, make sure. I grab it by both ends, put my spring in the bottom, and then gently guide this whole shebang in, making sure that Q-tip doesn't fall out. You can see it's starting to walk out. Push it back in. Push it in. The spring will sometimes get caught on random ledges. Just make sure it gets in there. Okay. Right now, that Q-tip is holding tension. Oh, there we go. The Q-tip is holding that spring from going through that hole. Which I like to do. Let's take this tool and push it in this side of the gun. Okay? And push that Q-tip out and have this hold the spring. Hopefully that makes sense. Because I'm going to try and do that now. And you want to push this down at the same time. Because you need to bring it down. That might be enough. That might be enough. You can see it fell out. That might be enough. I would like more, but I don't think I'm going to get it. When you install this, it doesn't matter, just as long as you get it in there. You just need that meat in there. And just push. And if it doesn't push against your tool, readjust until it does. Okay, and then pray. Push up on this. So use this and arc it down to push up and just pray. It's not doing it. Not quite. Okay. I was really worried I wasn't going to get it first try. Okay. Now you can see this protrude. Okay. This is holding spring tension at the moment. So practice caution with all the things that hold spring tension in your life. You want to push this detent back just a bit to where you can get this little end cap back on there. Okay. And then make sure this is faced down, and it should just push right through. Hello. Oh, there we go. Maybe. There we go. Okay. And you can see. There you go. That is the hardest part. That piece of shit. And that's it. And you can put your slide on. Function check everything. Make sure everything is cool. You don't need your trigger pack at this moment. Just make sure your locking block's not going anywhere, because that's kind of important. Good. Very good. Now, that's how you install that without that detent. With the detent, yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's some way that detent helps. Boy, I hope so, because this is a pain in the ass. So if you ever get to this point on your Canik METE SFX, and it may be similar on the Elite, I don't know. I've never removed my roll pins to get me that far. But if it is, that is a way that I have found to get this fucker back in without destroying that spring, because the spring cost me $20. All right. Hopefully that helped you. If it did, leave me a comment. If it didn't, fuck you, you idiot. If you've made it this far, okay, fuck off.